Hi and welcome to Kapowski Reads, and today I'm doing the Underhyped Book Tag, which I found on Jesse the Reader's channel. I will link his video down below. I highly recommend it. It was great fun to watch. I got some really good recommendations and I'm now gonna give you mine and hope that somebody might get something good out of my recommendations, maybe. These are all books that I love, and I haven't seen a lot of people talking about them. I'm not naive enough to think that I'm the only person in the world who loves these books. It's just that in my tiny little corner of the internet, I've not seen a lot of people raving about how much they've enjoyed these particular books, and I would love to know if you've read and loved any of these as well. So I suppose we'll go in. Question number 1, an underhyped book that I think deserves more love. I am going with Other People's Clothes by Calla Henkel. I absolutely love the bones of this book. I adore it. I have tabbed it so much. I have underlined parts of it. Like, I just think this book is so clever, so witty. The dialogue in it is some of the best, most authentic to the period dialogue that I have read in a book. It is about 2 young art students from the US who go to Berlin on a sort of semester abroad kind of scheme. They decide to take this opportunity to reinvent themselves. And it is set in 2009, which for me, I was in university at that time, and it just gives me that little bit of like nostalgia, even though I wasn't in university in Berlin and didn't go to Berlin until a couple of years later. But it just felt really like a time period that I was a party girl in that time. I was living my best life. And this book is about 2 women trying to reinvent themselves and live their best lives. They start to suspect that their landlady is using them as inspiration for her novel. And they decide, let's give her a gift. Let's start living our lives in a way that is going to be interesting for her to write about. They start throwing these massive, just fancy and elaborate parties that there is a guest list so long. Everybody wants to go to these parties and they're very, very exclusive. So even more people want to go because they can't. And you always want to go somewhere that you can't. And things escalate and get out of control. And people start to sort of lose their grasp on reality. And there is such an ominous vibe in this book, just a fear of being watched, of being followed. It's sort of like paranoia where you don't know if it's real or if it's not. And I was just, every time I read this book, I'm so gripped, and I just need more people to read it so that we can talk about it and so that we can quote it. Because I quote this book an annoying number of times, and nobody gets my references, and I'm just saying weird things. Question number 2 is a criminally underrated author that I think more people should read. I do not have the authority to make things criminal, but if I did, no, let's not open that can of worms. I'd go mad with power. I should never be given that much power. I am going to go with Jessie Burton, who I think maybe I don't see a lot of her books shared on Bookstagram or on BookTube, but I know like she's a really popular author. I just don't see her books being shared that much, and I think they should be. Every book bar one of hers has been a 5-star read for me, and The Muse is one of my favorite books by her, I think, but it might be The Confession. I don't know. It's a toss up between the two. I got the majority of her books from the library, but I own this one. And I think she is an amazing author. She's so talented and she writes characters just really well, but she always hides little nuggets in her book, like little jigsaw pieces that help you kind of put things together, and everything comes together at the end. And I know that with this author, I'm gonna have a good time. Question number 3 is a book by a popular author that I think is underrated. I'm going with This Strange Way of Dying by Silvia Moreno Garcia. I am a massive Silvia Moreno Garcia fangirl, huge fan. I have loved everything I've read by this author, which is a lot. I'm making my way through her back catalogue as quickly as I can. A lot of her older books weren't published in the UK, so some of them are quite expensive to get, and I'm on a budget. This book cost me far more than it should have, but it is an absolutely fantastic book. It is a short story collection. And I'm not usually a short story girly because I always feel there's, one or two that maybe miss the mark, and that brings the average down. But every single story in this book is a headlining story. They are all fantastic. I took quite a while to read this, based on how short it is, because I needed time between each story to just digest and process what I had read. Every story in this collection is just so powerful. If you have read any Silvia Moreno Garcia books before, you will be aware that she weaves Mexican folklore into each of her stories. This is no exception. This is quite a dark collection of stories, actually, quite creepy and unnerving at times, but in the best possible way. They are all set in our world, in a version of our world, but the stories all span different genres, from fantasy to sci-fi and a little bit of horror, and I would struggle to pick a favourite one. I really think I would. And I think that there's something for everyone in this collection, but they're all for me, all of them. I love them all. And I think that this is probably, is it my favourite book by hers? Maybe. Currently, my top 3 books by this author are The Strange Way of Dying, Gods of Jade and Shadow, and The Beautiful Ones. I think we've got a 3-way tie going on, but this one holds an extra special place in my heart because it's short stories and because I don't normally find a short story collection that every story I love. So yeah, has to be this one. I recommend it. A book on my TBR that I want to read that I think is underrated, and I am going with the second book in the Shadow City series, which is called Days Gone Next by Claire Duffy. This series is set in Glasgow and has our main character having returned home from a long time away, and she finds that things are a little bit weird. There are Vikings from ye past. There are magical time loops, time warps, people are going through time. There is a serial killer. There are Vikings who are after the other Vikings. It is absolute chaos, but set in modern day Glasgow. It's such a fantastic series so far. I read book 1 and absolutely adored it. Book 2 was very kindly being released chapter by chapter by the author, but I have decided to wait until it comes out as a whole because I want to just read it all. It comes out at the end of August. I have pre-ordered it already on ebook. There doesn't seem to be a physical publication date available, so I don't know if there will be one, but I hope there will because this series is so good. It is one of my favourite Scottish series, and it is just full of just witty one-lines, butt-kicking, really beautiful sort of found family elements. There are secrets, there are drama, and everything is very sort of disorienting because of the timey-wimey things, but I think the series is fantastic and I'm so excited to read book 2 and get back to the fun story that I'd had before. Question number 5 is a character from a book that I think is underrated, and I have to go with our Zara from A Glasgow Kiss and What Happens in Dubai and Meet Me in Milan, which isn't out yet. It's out in August and I've pre-ordered it and I'm so excited to read it. Zara is 29. She is living in Glasgow and she is a trainee nurse. That is her dream, to be a nurse. She works in an esthetician's with her best friend and her love life is a mess, just an absolute mess. And she is trying to do something about it, and she ends up just getting herself into the most hilarious situations. She's like, oh, it feels like she's almost cursed in love. The books cover her dating life, basically, and her dating life is tragic. It's tragic in the most hilarious way. She's not real, so it's okay to laugh at her. But she gets herself into these situations and just absolute carnage. They're so funny. I have laughed until I cried. Each of these books, I have performed dramatic readings of the funnier passages to my partner. I will never be able to eat a chicken and sweet corn baguette from Greg's, ever. I've never had one, but now I never can because of having read these books and some of the situations she gets into. So funny. These are smutty. So if you enjoy hilarious smut, highly recommend some Sophie Gravia to you, because these are so funny. And these are some of my favourite series and some of my favourite Scottish books as well. I chuckle, I cackle like a mad witch whenever I read these, or whenever I really think about them. I think she is so underrated because she is a tragic heroine because she's trying really hard to find love, but she's also just an absolute comic. She's so funny, and she doesn't even mean to be funny, which is the best thing. She's not trying hard, but she's so lovable that you're rooting for her, and I just want the best for her. I'm so excited about the next book, actually. That's out pretty soon. I'm gonna really enjoy that and cackle. I'm gonna cackle. Question 6 is a book that I feel deserves a bit more love and is from a currently trending genre. I'm not 100% sure what genres are trending, so I just sort of looked at what people I know have been reading recently, and a lot of them have been enjoying memoirs. So let's go with that. And I'm going with Delicacy by Katie Wicks. This is a collection of essays by Katie Wicks is a actor and comedian, and I know her best from being in Taskmaster. She was hilarious in that. But this book collection is so vulnerable and raw. It is about her life through cake. Basically, every sort of significant event in her life, she has linked it to a form of cake. It's an exquisitely written book. It is poetic and it is very, very emotional. I underlined a whole bunch of passages in this book. It really made me think. It is funny, it is witty, but it is also extremely heartbreaking and rage-inducing at points. I highly recommend this. I don't know anybody who has read this other than people that I have made read it by giving them the book, going, read it. So I think more people should read this. It's so underrated, I think, but it's so powerful, and yeah, I really recommend this. Question number 7 is recommend an underrated book that is based off of a popular book. And I'm going with the Nightmareverse series by L.L. McKinney. Blade So Black, A Dream So Dark, and there is A Crown So Cursed, which is out in September, I think. It was supposed to be out in 2020, but it didn't come out, so it's been delayed, and I cannot wait. I cannot wait. This is based off of Alice in Wonderland. Our heroine, Alice, she lives in Atlanta, and it is her job to basically save the world. I really like books that are kind of giving me like Buffy vibes of like strong female lead, kind of reluctant, with a band of like fun friends who help. This is what this book gave me. There are these sort of like spirits, energy, like demon things in Earth, and Alice is charged with, smooshing them. Additionally, there is a Wonderland, and she goes to Wonderland, and there are more sort of baddies that she has to take out, but there's also everything that you know from Alice in Wonderland is in this book, but just with a little bit of twist. There's a Mad Hatter, there is the Red Queen, It is such an enjoyable series. I love the relationship that Alice has with her mother, with her grandmother. It's so just a really beautiful family relationship, really secure, really loving, really supportive. And I love the friendship that Alice has as well. She has a friend who panicked when she had found herself in danger and threw a shoe, and I have never felt more seen in literature in my entire life, because I would probably panic and throw a shoe as well. There are these cool cat-like dragons in book 2 that I just wanted to sob with just joy at reading about. This series is just an absolute roller coaster of emotions, and I love it. And I don't see people talking about this series, and I would like them to, because I would like people to read this, because I think that your life will be better if you've read this, because it will have more joy. And these books give me joy. I love them. So these are my underrated favourites, and I would love to know what books you love that you feel are criminally underrated. Criminally! Let me know in the comments if you want to, and if you've read any of these, or if you're going to read them. I recommend them all. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!